Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Coach Cody podcast. Appreciate you coming back, or if this is your first time, then awesome. Hope you enjoy and hope you'll come back again next time. If you have not checked out the last episode, make sure you do. I had my client Titus on, and he talked about his journey with depression and anxiety and how fitness helped him along the way. Definitely not one you want to miss if you struggle with depression and anxiety. I know I myself, for one, that has been a huge thing for me in my journey. And there's some great stuff in there, so make sure you check that out. And I'm sure I will talk about depression and anxiety moving forward along, my own journey with it. But today, I wanted to talk about burnout. And not like work burnout, but fitness journey burnout. Just like everything else, yes, you can burn out in your fitness journey. So I wanted to go over some ways to prevent that, or at least, help. Sometimes we can't prevent it completely, but there are little things that we can do that do help. So number one way to not burn out, or at least prevent some burnout, don't go too hard too fast. So motivation is always highest in the beginning. Maybe you're just getting into your fitness journey and you're stoked, you can't wait, and you go balls to the wall too fast. That's kind of a recipe for burnout. Motivation is high at that time, but fitness is something that needs to be maintained over the long term. So if you can't maintain it during your crazy times when you're less motivated, chances are it's not going to be sustainable. So make sure you're not doing too much too soon. Make sure it's something that will be sustainable through all seasons of life. And going too hard too fast also, like you're like, wow, this is really hard, I'm going to stop. So what if we just kind of made sure, you know your limits, you know what you can sustain. This might take some practice also. So, sometimes you gotta learn the hard way. But it's okay to pace yourself. And doing more doesn't mean you're going to see results quicker. So why do more when you don't have to, right? Doing more sometimes is not always better. So if you go hard too quickly, you're definitely not going to see the results you want to see, because you might burn out and then end up quitting. And that is definitely not going to be the most efficient way to reach your fitness goals. So number two, make sure you have realistic expectations. This is a huge one. So not only do you need to make sure that your goals are realistic for your life and what you are willing and able to do, make sure you have a realistic time frame of how long those goals might take you. Because I think a lot of the times, maybe you think that you can lose 30 pounds in a month, and when that doesn't happen, get disappointed, and then before you know it, you're no longer on your fitness journey because you just thought you weren't seeing the progress, and then you quit. But this stuff takes time. So do know and do realize that you need to make sure that the time frame you have for your goals is realistic. And just to give you a little idea, a healthy rate of weight loss is about 1 to 2 pounds per week, with the exception if you're someone who is like over 600 pounds. You might have seen this show, My 600-Pound Life, and those folks can lose weight pretty significantly. In a month, they can lose like 60 pounds. But the only reason they're able to do that is because they have a significant amount of weight to lose. So if you have a significant amount of weight to lose, you might be able to lose more than 1 to 2 pounds per week in a healthy way. But chances are keeping it anywhere between 1 to 2 pounds is going to be sufficient. And, the scale isn't everything either. So do make sure you're focusing on changing your body composition and not just chasing the number on the scale. Weight loss and fat loss are two different things. I could probably go into more detail in that at another time, but for now, just make sure you have realistic expectations for your goals so that you don't start off, sprinting and then burn out because you don't feel like you're getting anywhere. So another way to prevent burnout is to phase your training and nutrition. So there are many seasons in life, and sometimes we need to phase our training along with how our life is going. So maybe we have a particularly chaotic time in life and we're very busy. Maybe there's some family stuff going on, somewhat of a crisis, and you need to dial back your training for a second that's much better than quitting altogether because life is just too much right now, right? So nothing is concrete set in stone when it comes to nutrition and fitness. It can be flexible according to what is going in your life at the moment. And this is part of making things sustainable. So just because maybe when you started, you're able to go to the gym 5 days a week and you were super consistent with it, but then life threw some curveballs and you're no longer, like, maybe you missed a day and you're only able to get there 4 days, or maybe you're only able to get there 3 days. That's okay. If you want to dial your workouts down for amount, like a few months to 3 days per week, just to kind of get you over that hump and take some stress off your plate, that is 100% okay. And maybe you've been tracking your food for months and months, maybe years, and you're feeling like you're wanting to quit because you don't want to track your food anymore. It's okay to take a break. You could practice eating intuitively for a bit, practice staying in maintenance, and say, you haven't lost all of the weight that you want, so you don't want to stop. But sometimes even maintaining is progress, especially if you're someone who has in the past gained weight back after losing it, right? I think a lot of times that happens because we think that once we kind of reach a goal or a certain point, then we can just stop. But the thing is, you have to maintain it. This is, again, it's something we have to do for our entire lives. So we have to make it sustainable. And that's why sometimes, allowing for times to push and times to maintain are key for long-term success. So do not be afraid to phase your training and your nutrition to a way that fits your current life chaos levels, and then when things calm down, you can push again. But it's a lot better to pivot than to just quit completely. All right, next one. This one's a little bit complicated sometimes because, all right, so make sure that it is at least somewhat enjoyable. And that doesn't mean that exercise is always going to be enjoyable. A lot of the times it's going to be a situation kind of like every other thing you have to do as an adult, bathing, brushing your teeth. We may not always feel like doing those things, but it's a way to care for yourself, right? As an adult, we are adults. We're responsible for our own health and well-being. So there's some things that we always have to do, even if we don't want to do it. Exercise is one of those things, and making something enjoyable, of course, is gonna there's gonna be a lot less resistance to that. But like I said, if you don't enjoy something, that doesn't give you permission just to quit, because sometimes things are like an acquired taste of enjoyment, right? So just like maybe as a kid you didn't like broccoli, but now as an adult you do, because you practice eating it essentially, and you develop those tastes for it. So the same thing goes with working out. And for example, I used to hate strength training. Swear to God, I used to hate it. I was a runner. I ran like 50 miles a week. I had hardly any muscle on my body, and lifting was not my cup of tea. I preferred to just run the life out of myself and run from my problems. So physically and emotionally, I used running as a tool to run away from everything. But eventually I did, I ended up getting into strength training and realized that I actually enjoyed it. It was it was a bit meditative for me, but also I enjoyed the results. So I would say do something long enough to be able to see the results of what you're doing, and you might kind of learn to also not just love the results, but the process. So I would recommend giving something at least a solid 90 days before you go deciding that you absolutely hate it. So if you go 3 months and you say, I'm gonna run for X amount of miles per week, and after 90 days you still absolutely hate it, all right, cool. Maybe we can dial things back, figure out a different form of cardio that you enjoy that isn't running. Strength training is hard because I feel like it's something that everyone needs. It's a need for sure, especially as we age. We do need to make sure that we strength train, so we stay strong, we stay independent, and bone density with resistance training is also a thing. And as we age, we lose muscle mass, we lose bone density. So strength training is a way to combat that. And you've all heard of, your metabolism slows down as you age, and you can't just like eat how you used to. A lot of that reason is because you are losing muscle mass as you get older. So a way to not have to be like, oh, I can't eat how I used to, my metabolism slowed down. Best way to combat that, strength training. So so if you don't love strength training, you might be able to find little ways that you do like it that still incorporates some sort of resistance training. So maybe you don't like working out by yourself in the gym, so maybe you could join a strength training class. Even if it has to be CrossFit, at least that is some form of resistance training. So maybe there's just a different modality within strength training that you might prefer, which is totally fine. But I would say, this might be an unpopular opinion or it might piss some people off, but I would say put your dislike for strength training on the back burner and do it anyways, because the benefits far outweigh, you not so much enjoying it. Okay. That's one where I'm like, oof, try to suck it up the best you can and maybe get a gym partner. That doesn't make it more enjoyable. If you can make it kind of a social thing. And that kind of leads me to the next point. So having a proper support system, that's where having a gym partner can come into play. It's a lot easier to stay accountable. Like if you're going to the gym with someone else, then it's like, hey, what time do we go to the gym? Or you want to go to the gym today? So having that person kind of be on your team with things can be very, very helpful. Also with classes, sometimes the best part is you just have to show up. And it's like you're not going to show up to a class and then just stand there and decide not to do it, right? I mean, you might sneak out and hope that no one saw you show up if you decide you don't want to do it. But a lot of the times the classes, all you have to do is get yourself there, and then peer pressure will push you through the rest. But support also, meaning, it can be really, really hard to sustain a fitness journey, especially if your home environment isn't great. Like say you have a spouse or a parent or something that kind of just shits on your goals and everything you're doing to try to better your health, change your eating habits. Maybe they're not supportive because they feel threatened, or they they're not ready for you to change because maybe you bond over eating certain foods or not moving essentially. So it'd be great, if it's something that you can do with together. But if the person is like really not supportive and they don't want anything of it, it's important to find support elsewhere. So maybe there's someone in your circle of friends that you can turn to for support. If not, there's a lot of online support groups, and that seems a little bit, not the best line of support, but you might be surprised. There's a lot of groups out there, and I know I've met a lot of really great friends on the internet. So just because you met online, or maybe your support is online, doesn't mean it'll always stay online. You could form a lifelong friendship and end up making it an in-person friendship. So wherever you can find your support, you do need something. So if that's the internet, your friends or family, that's going to be really, really, really important. So if you don't have any support at all, also, of course, hiring a coach is one way to do it. That's what my job is for. I mean, that's a piece of it, is supporting you and getting you through the peaks and valleys of the fitness journey. But whatever it is you decide to do to get some support, do it, because it's going to make a huge impact on your progress. All right, so let's see here. Remember your why. So this is something we tend to forget when things get tough. So there's going to be a lot of peaks and valleys within your fitness journey, and it's important to remember why you started in order to get you through those valleys. Eventually, you'll always find your way out. I know it doesn't always feel like it, but if you can remember the reasoning behind why you started, it makes those valleys not seem so hard to climb out of. And this is normal. You should expect valleys and peaks, just like everything else in life. You know, motivation is not linear. It's gonna dip, and there's gonna be times where the last thing you want to do is work out or eat right, but motivation will come back around. So that's why it's important to always keep that why in mind. And like as a reminder, put it on a sticky note, put it all over your computers or wherever you are the most. When you wake up in the morning, stick it to the mirror, stick it wherever you can see it, whatever your why is, and make it your mantra. Just make sure it's something that will keep you going. So, all right. So, last but not least, make sure to take proper rest days and deloads with your training so that you do not burn out. So, if you don't recover properly, you will burn out. It's not an if or possibility. It is a sure thing. You will burn out if you do not take proper rest days or if you do not deload. Your body can only take so much, and then it impacts you mentally. And then before you know it, you're like, holy shit, I feel like crap. Why am I doing this? I'm going to stop now. So when something not only starts to exhaust you, but add stress to your plate, it's a recipe for disaster. So listen to your body, and listening to your body takes practice because you have to learn to sort through your own bullshit sometimes. There's a lot of times where your brain is going to be like, nah, we just don't have it in us today. But your brain plays tricks on you a lot of times. So, you know, I would say, you know, there's going to be some times where you definitely, your body's going to tell you no. You'll feel it. You feel fatigued. And it's going to take a bit to separate mental fatigue from like actual physical fatigue. Sometimes they go together. So, yeah, as far as taking deloads, if you find that with your workouts, you are pushing yourself really hard in the gym, you haven't taken a deload week, which is either like cutting your volume in half or even taking like a few days out of the gym completely if you're someone who has a hard time not pushing yourself. I've had this, my coach has had me stay out of the gym completely before because, yeah, if I am in the gym, probably going to end up pushing myself more than I should, which defeats the whole reasoning for the deload. But yeah, you don't be that person who's like the no days off David Goggins stuff. Like, respect to Goggins, but he's a one of a kind individual. You are not David Goggins because David Goggins is David Goggins. And you know, he's got some good mindset shit and some good mental toughness things to listen to, but he is not the majority. So don't feel like you have to be on David Goggins' level. It is okay to rest. It is okay to take some recovery days. And I forgot, I was going into when you might need a deload, you know, signs that you might need a deload. If you're having trouble sleeping, if you're getting more agitated, or you just feel kind of annoyed, you're feeling kind of brain foggy, you kind of feel like you're moving in slow motion, especially in the gym, you're just like, ugh, I don't feel myself. That means that's probably a sign that you should take a deload. And then it's hard mentally sometimes to do, but more times than not, you get back into the gym feeling better, recharged, and able to push yourself even more, making your workouts more efficient than if you just try to keep pushing through feeling fatigued and brain fogged and all that stuff. So rest is important. Remember that you break down muscle in the gym, but you build it at rest. So those are all things to make sure you check off the list of how to prevent burnout when it comes to fitness. And this isn't like a fail-safe thing. There's probably going to be many times where you want to quit because it gets uncomfortable, right? But don't let the discomfort of things have you quitting. Sometimes you just need to take your foot off the gas a little bit and, you know, pull back, rest up, and start fresh the next week, the next day. It's amazing what a good night's sleep can do for you sometimes, or even like a weekend of rest. So before you go make any decisions of wanting to quit your fitness journey, give it some time. Give yourself some rest. Maybe do some journaling. Think about it. Remember your why and all of that fun stuff. All right. So that's it. If you have any questions or topic suggestions, make sure to leave them in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, or you can DM me on Instagram at Mr. Coach Cody, or you can email me at trainwithcoachcody@gmail.com. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening. If you would also like to give this podcast a review or a share, I would be so thankful for you doing that. It helps me out. And all right. Peace out, guys. I will talk to you next time.